So what would it be like if you got to sit down with a true leadership professional, somebody who's been in the business for over 40 years, and they were going to give you their most powerful, not only insights over those 40 years, but what they found that helps them not only move the needle forward in their business, in their personal life, and with their physical and mental health, but also make a bigger impact in the world. Well, today we actually get to do that with J Max because we're going into part 2 of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. If you didn't see the first part, it's definitely something you can hop into on our YouTube channel. Also, this is a program that we have designed for business and people who wanted to grow when it comes to their leadership ability. This is where we actually dive into really powerful books. So if you're not a part of the Business Leadership Book Club right now, it's currently free. You can go to the link inside of the description and join. But we are going to dive into part number 2. Now, when we think about the first 10 laws, and in the first live stream that we did, I just think of so many different powerful laws that literally have reshaped how not only I operate in business, but how it's made a bigger impact in my physical health, and it's made a bigger impact me becoming the father and husband that I truly want to become, which is still a work in progress. And that's really what not only this channel is all about, but it's about what this book can do for your life if you lean into even just one of those laws. So if you're ready to dive in with us today, I am super pumped to be here with you, and we're going to get right into the show. It's time to redefine leadership. Welcome to Modern Leadership, where we see things differently. Our channel is all about empowering entrepreneurs like you to achieve the next level of success in business and life. We believe that you can create a massive impact in the world without compromising your personal life or family time to do so.
We're committed to providing you with actionable tips and strategies weekly to make that possible. So if you're ready to become a modern leader and make a lasting difference in the world, consider subscribing. Turn on notifications and dive into our community. We want to thank you for being here because the world needs your leadership now more than ever. Let's go.
All right, guys, let's go. So we're going to start on chapter number 11. And by the way, Anthony, Aaron, Julie, good morning, everybody. Good morning. If I didn't call you out, definitely type something in the chat so we can call you out. Super pumped to have not only our book club members here, we have people from the inner circle here, and we also have so many new people, which I'm so pumped to actually go through this book with you guys. So we're going to start off with law number 11, the law of inner circle. What J Max says about this is really powerful. And every time that I read this book, every time that I read these laws, it reminds me of how I utilize this in one area of my life, and it's helped me have so much success that I can actually tap into this in another area of my life. And that's the law of the inner circle, and being able to make sure that I surround myself, which is crazy, our thing is called the inner circle, right? Surround myself with the right people just puts me into a space to develop myself even faster. That's the reason why we have this book club. He says, a leader's potential is determined by those closest to him. He says, what makes the difference between a leader's success and potential is the leader's inner circle. It's the people that you spend the most time with. Now, some of us talk about the 5 people we spend the most time with, right? And I feel like there are maybe 5 people that we spend the most time with on our real life, 5 people we spend the most time with online, meaning the things that we consume from them they're one of our 5 people. And when we really think about wanting to achieve success in business, around leadership, maybe in a career, connecting with our family and making sure your physical and mental health, the people that you surround yourself with are very, very important. But how do you actually have what framework do you follow to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with actually the right people? And so here is what he says. He says, who are you drawing into your inner circle? And he says, if you can answer yes to these questions, then you have excellent candidates for your inner circle. And if not, please keep looking. He says, number 1 is, hey, do they have a high level of influence with others? So if you're looking to develop your leadership, if you're looking to make a bigger impact, hanging out with other people who have a big amount of influence will help you not only tap into that, but learn some of the different skills, strategies, and of course, the confidence to be able to lead more people effectively, right? So if you're hanging out with people who also have a lot of influence, it will help elevate your level of influence too. And David, good morning. Good morning, sir. So number 1 is ask yourself, are you hanging out with people who have a high level of influence? Number 2 is, do they bring a complementary gift to the table? Meaning, we don't want to have an inner circle of people who have the same exact strengths as us. We want to have an inner circle of a group of people who have complementary strengths, meaning that For example, me and Teresa, my beautiful wife, who is usually co-hosting all of our calls, except for the book club calls that we have here, she has a different set of skills than I do. And I struggle with trying to implement her skills, and she struggles with kind of trying to implement my skills. And so the beautiful place is in the middle, right? Where you have a inner circle that's not just, everybody looks like you and acts like you and all that kind of stuff. It's people outside of that you're willing to see different perspectives, and you wouldn't get that perspective if you didn't have that person. So we don't want everybody to be the same. We want everybody to be different and to have different strengths, and that's what makes the power of the inner circle so important, right? Number 3 is, do they hold a strategic position in the organization? Now, when I say this, I'm not necessarily sure, like I can actually see how this works when it comes to like family and stuff like that. One of the things that I think about is like, are those people kind of like excelling in the areas that I want to be able to excel in, or at least on a mission to be able to excel in that area? So if I'm like, let's say I'm a business owner, and this started really early when I was looking for my own team to kind of hang out with. I wanted to make sure it was a group that really valued their business and growing and making an impact and making more money, right? Because I wanted to leave my job with LAPD, but also at the same time, I wanted them to make sure that there were also people who valued family, like even above business, right? Like for me, family is even higher on the scale when it comes to like business, but also didn't want to burn myself out through the process. So my goal was not just to find people who have a strategic position in business. My goal was to find a group of inner circle people that I could bring closer to me, who had different sets of skills than me, but also like valued the same things that I did. And so by doing that, it actually helped me to not only excel in one area, but it prevented me from giving it all in one area and sacrificing the others. So when I think about this, holding a strategic position, I think about like, what are their goals? What are their aspirations? And are they trying to get more in the same areas that I want to be able to get that stuff in? Tiffany, good morning, my friend. Good morning. Number 4 is, do they add value to me and the organization? This is one thing that I have found, and this is what I love about our inner circle, including Tiffany. I mean, this is kind of like brought it up, is like so many people on our team are up for doing whatever they can to help other people rather than going into the community and just wanting to take. I mean, yes, we have all of these different calls and trainings and workshops and book club and all this kind of stuff. But she's the type of person, just like all of you guys, Julie, Aaron, like all of you guys are like, I'm going in here to give to as many people as I possibly can and not just have it be a one-way street, right? And so when you think about the inner circle, the people that you have closest to you, are they people that add value to you and to the organization, or are they kind of people who just take for themselves? It's really important, like the character of the people in the inner circle, rather than necessarily even the results that they have. I've always found that when I judge character first, and that's who the people that I get on my team, which is why I have Aaron and Kurt and Nais on my team, because I judge them by their character and how powerful they are. Like they're going to be able to get some astronomical results, but the character really doesn't change. And that's really a powerful piece of the inner circle. And number 5 is, do they positively impact other inner circle members? Every single one of you guys in the inner circle that we have, I feel like is a very positive enforcement for like everybody else. You get everybody else to see the opportunities, see the potential, see different ideas and strategies and tips, and you're like there to really help, and you give to them instead of being the type who just takes. So these are the 5 questions that he asks to make sure that he is surrounding himself with the right people for chapter number 11, which is the law of inner circle. He says, do they have the influence with others? Do they bring a complementary gift to the table? Do they hold a strategic position in the organization? For me, it's like, do they have similar goals in all areas of life like that I do? Do they add value to me and to the organization? And do they positively impact other inner circle members? When you can ask those questions, then you can make sure that you're in alignment with your version of the inner circle. It's also the reason why we created our inner circle, because so many people resonated with what I was saying, that being able to actually find one instead of having to create one was what I wanted to do for everybody. And that's why we have 55 members inside of our inner circle. And it's a really powerful team that can help build each other exponentially. By the way, if you ever are curious about that, I'll leave you the link below in the notes. But really being able to find your inner circle is ultimately what the thing is. Whether it's with us or not, finding that inner circle of people is a game changer. It will help speed up your process of results exponentially. Okay. Number 12, and we're going to go through these chapters a little bit faster than that one. I just want to make sure I spend time on that because that's one that has made the biggest difference to me in my life. So chapter number 12 is the law of empowerment. Only secure leaders give power to others. So one of the things is he's talking about how Some people, and this used to happen at LAPD all the time, they're afraid to empower other people, to give them the strategies, to share like their methods or their processes in order to be able to get to where they got to, because they feel like they'll be indispensable if they don't, give people all of the goods. And what he says is it's actually the opposite. He says leading well is not about enriching yourself. It's about empowering others, giving them the ability of rising up and becoming leaders. What's incredible is that when you develop leaders and not followers, just how different not only your organization, but your family and all of those kind of things will happen, because you won't just be the person that your kids have to come to all the time and ask what they should do. You're going to be more of like developing leaders so that they can go out and they can take action themselves. And yes, every once in a while come to you and get some advice and some direction, but you don't have to be handcuffed, or they don't have to be handcuffed to you. They can actually go and be empowered themselves, right? He says there are some barriers, though, to empowerment, and the best thing to do is to get over these. He says, number one is the barrier to empowerment is desire for job security, meaning thinking that you not sharing is going to help secure your job. As a matter of fact, the way that I think about it is like for people, if I want to get to the next level, I have to help enough people get to my level so I even have the ability of getting to the next level. Sometimes that backfires when they're like, their desire for job security actually gets them to not be able to climb the ladder and make a bigger impact and help more people because they're so stuck in where they're currently at. But when you help enough people get to where you are, what do they say? Then you can get to anywhere that you want. So really it's a barrier to empowerment. Getting over is the desire for job security. Another barrier to empowerment is resistance to change. This happens a lot, especially in the law enforcement field, where it's like, this is the way it's always been done, so must be the best way for it to do it. And being resistant to any change, to any updates, to things that are happening, to the world, to all of these kind of things, being resistant to it is going to definitely help you to not be able to empower not only others, but even yourself through that. So he says being able to get past that barrier of empowerment is incredibly important. Barrier number 3 to empowerment is the lack of self-worth. So if you have a lack of self-worth, it can prevent you from empowering others, especially when we start to like get into the comparison mode, right? We compare ourselves to other leaders. Then we start to get ourselves to believe that maybe we're not good enough to be able to lead others. When in reality, where we are right now, like is not only good enough, but there always are people who are at a lower level of growth that would love to be brought up to where we currently are. And when we can help enough people get up to where we are, like we said earlier, then you have the ability of rising up even higher. And that's a part of the process is instead of thinking about this as yourself in terms of like, oh man, like maybe I'm not good enough, maybe whatever, instead like transform it into the other people, into what you can help empower other people and at what level they are that you can literally lift them up to yours. And it's just a different shift. Instead of it making it focused about you, which is in our life coach certification, we talk about our head voice, you make it about the other people and the impact that you can make, which is we term as the heart voice. And when you get into that, you use the same amount of time, same amount of energy, but your focus is more on empowering people versus kind of like pushing people down, right? And that is law number 12, the law of empowerment. One more thing that I highlighted here is you don't have to be a leader of Lincoln's caliber to empower others. The main ingredient for empowering others is a high belief in other people. If you believe in others, they will believe in themselves. That is so true, so true. I know early on in my business, I didn't necessarily have full belief in myself, but I had a mentor, Josh, who did believe in me. And that's all I needed in the interim. Like he can believe in me, then I can believe in myself. And when I did that, it actually got me to level myself up. And by doing that, now I try to empower other leaders to do the same thing, because sometimes somebody needs a coattail to ride on while they're developing that self-confidence themselves, right? And by doing that, you're empowering other people and really empowering the future. All right, law number 13. The law of the picture. This is kind of like, if you've heard of the 4 M's before, this is the model part of it. This is where you're taking action and people are gonna repeat what you do, not necessarily what you say. He says, when times are tough, uncertainty is high, and chaos threatens to overwhelm everyone, followers need a clear picture from their leaders the most. That's when they need a leader who embraces the law of the picture. The living picture they see in their leader produces energy, passion, and motivation to keep going. We talk about this like being down in the trenches. Like, are you willing to do the things that you're asking other people to do? It's also very important in business. Like if you're asking people to get coached, if you're asking people to buy a program, if you're asking people to, are you doing that yourself? it's kind of this crazy amount of energy that actually you don't realize that you're putting out there. But if you're not willing to do that yourself, it's very hard for you to sell or to talk about or to ask others to do it. It's just something that is in our subconscious mind. It prevents us from really showing up the way that we want to. But when you're actually doing that yourself and then you're asking other people, it's so much easier to be able to do that rather than feeling like unaligned, right? Like you're asking people to do it and you're not doing it yourself, all right? He says, modeling insights for leaders. He said, number one, followers are always watching what you do, especially kids. They're always watching what you do. He says, it's easier to teach what's right to do than to do what's right. He says, it's so easy to tell people and to teach them and to train them, but the hardest thing is to actually do it, which is why people follow what they see, not what they are hear. Number three is we should work on changing ourselves before trying to improve others, 100%. So anytime I put somebody through, like let's say a breakdown session or something that I can do to help impact people, I do it on myself first. I'm not like the kind who, uses other people to see if it's working. I actually use it myself. And through me using it on myself, it empowers me to even talk about it even more. Number four, he says the most valuable gift a leader can give is being a good example. They ranked it says a survey conducted by Opinion Research from Ahion Finance asked American workers to select the one trait that was most important for a person to lead them. The results are number one was leading by example. Number two was strong ethics or morals, knowledge of the business, fairness, overall intelligence, recognition of employees. But 26% said leading by example was the most important thing for them. That's why law number 12, the law of the picture is, that's actually 13. The law of the picture is getting you to take the actions that you're asking others to take. All right, law number 14, the law of buy-in. People buy into the leader, then the vision. This one was a little bit of a brain tease and twister for me, for sure. This is what he says. He says, when I teach leadership seminars, I field a lot of questions about vision. Invariably, someone will come up to me during a break, give me a brief description of an evolving vision and ask me, do you think my people will buy into my vision? He says, my response is always the same. First, tell me this. Do the people buy into you? He says, you see, many people who approach the area of vision and leadership have it all backwards. They believe if the cause is good enough, people will automatically buy into it and follow. But that's not how leadership really works. People don't at first follow worthy causes. They follow worthy leaders who promote causes they can believe in. People buy into the leader first, then the leader's vision. Having an understanding of that changes your whole approach to leading people. So instead of trying to lead them on this beautiful vision, you have to get them to first buy into you as the leader. I know one of the things that I have kind of seen is when I am looking into a leader that I guess subconsciously I'm deciding if I should follow or not, I think about the law of the picture and thinking about are they taking the actions that I want to take? But also do I buy into them as a person? Do I share similar values or goals? Do they talk about family, as well as business and health and fitness, not just one. I'm not a one-dimensional person. All three of those things are equally important to me, and I want to excel in all of them. And so when I think about buying into the leader, then when I buy into him or her and their values and their goals and what their priorities are, then the next step, whether they, point any direction and give me some ideas of why they're going in that direction, I'm more likely to take that step, even if I don't 100% believe in the vision, because I really, truly believe in them. He says, and it's also not an either or proposition. He's like, there's many different avenues that you can find yourself stuck in when you're trying to get people to follow your vision. There's a couple things that could happen. He says, when leaders don't like the leader or the vision, they look for another leader. When followers don't like the leader, but they do like the vision, they look for another leader. When followers like the leader, but not the vision, they change the vision. And when followers like the leader and the vision, they get behind both. This was an eye-opener for me, because sometimes you might think that it's the vision that is the issue, but in reality, it could be that they don't buy into you as a leader. And it's not that there's anything wrong with you. It just means that maybe they just haven't had enough time to build that know, like, and trust and get behind you. And through that time, even here on YouTube, I find that people after, I forget the however many hours, after watching me and Teresa for 7 hours, that's when they're most likely to want to join one of our programs or to become a part of our inner circle or to, take that next step with us because they've gotten to know, like, and trust us, and they didn't really buy into us as a leader, because you can't do that on one video. I mean, maybe if somebody has like an experience, an emotional enough experience, they can buy into like a leader. But in reality, it takes some repetition, right? It takes some time, which is why, like, as we're growing a business on social media, that's also, we've got to buy into that leader before we buy into that program or that product that they're selling. And this is how we do that, is we build relationships. For me, it's like on video. It's being able to share some of the great stuff, but also some of the terrible stuff, what's going well and what's not going well, because it helps people to either buy into me or make a decision. I don't like him, and I'm going to go buy into another leader, which, by the way, is 100% okay. I actually don't want people to buy into me or my vision if it's something that doesn't feel authentic to them, right? And so when we're here, when we're posting stuff on social media, when we're growing a business, really thinking about this in terms of like, well, it could be that my vision is off, but it also could be that maybe they haven't bought into me, and maybe I just need more time, or maybe I need to share a little bit more about myself to actually allow them to buy in, right? Because it's a really powerful thing when it's not just it must be the program I have, or it must be the product. Well, no, it might just be that people haven't bought into you yet. Really powerful when you think about it that way, right? Okay, number 15. Thank you, Tiffany. Tiffany, you're like the biggest fan here. You got like 7 or 8 different comments. I appreciate you so much, and I'm definitely going to go back and read them all, by the way. And I also do want to hear, as you guys, as we go, like, what of the things that I say or come up with, by the way, these are not this is not my wisdom. This is wisdom that I learned from the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by reading it like 7 times. I want to hear like what really strikes a chord with you, because like I always do in all of our trainings is like, we got to think about what is the one thing that you're going to get from this call that you're going to take away and that you're going to implement immediately. Okay. Because that's how we get better. We don't get better by consuming. We get better by acting, right? All right. Number 15, the law of victory. Leaders find a way for the team to win. He says, but when I think about victorious leaders, they have one thing in common. They share an unwillingness to accept defeat. The alternate to winning is totally unacceptable to them, and as a result, they figure out what must be done to achieve victory. I want to share a story in a second about this, because I actually had a client that I walked through on a one-on-one, and this session that I had totally transformed the game for her forever. But let me finish some of the highlights that I have in this chapter. She says, the best leaders feel compelled to rise to a challenge and do everything in their power to achieve victory for their people. He says there's 3 components of victory. Number 1 is unity of vision. Everybody knows where they're going. Number 2 is diversity of skills. Do you have people with different skills and strategies and mindsets and all that great stuff that are all heading in that direction so you can achieve it? And number 3, a leader dedicated to victory and raising players to their potential. And here's the thing, like sometimes raising players to their potential can be a little bit uncomfortable, but when they know that you're coming from a place of like, you love them and you want to see what's in their best interest, and you want to push them a little bit to actually rise up to their full potential. It's different than using shame, guilt, or humiliation in order to get people to perform, right? Which is an entirely different story that I can go into from the Dad Edge boardroom call that we had the other day. But before we get off track with that, I want to talk a little bit about what I talked about in the beginning, which is the law of victory. So there's a difference, and I want you to think about this, and I want you to try this on for size, okay? There's a difference between saying that this is what I do, like this is what I do, versus I'm trying to do this, and I'm going to give it a shot. So there was somebody who I was coaching, and in their career, all right, I'm not going to give you any details because I keep all names like private in this specific situation. In this situation, they were like, this is what I do at work. Like, I go to work. This is what I do. I'm taking action and I'm getting results. And when it came to their business, it was like, well, like this is what I'm trying to do. And like every once in a while, I'll if I have extra time, I'll spend this. And I just had an opportunity to kind of like ask her some questions. And one of the things that came up was like, there was a definitive, I'm going to win at work. And there was like I'll try a little bit until it gets hard kind of feeling and tone through their business. And I asked them, I'm curious, what would it look like if you changed the tone that you have at work and use that tone for business too? And your business was, I'm going to find a time in a day to do this because I'm going to win. I may not have all the answers, but I'm going to figure it out. And the resounding, like, not only confirmation on the call, but afterwards was like, yes, that is where I feel like I was limited. I was limited in the way that I was thinking because it was more of like I'm not going to win. It's like, maybe I will win. If it's a maybe I will win, then it's a definitely you're going to lose because it's a different kind of mindset of like, I'm going to find a way of doing it. And I'm not going to sacrifice the other areas of my life. I'm not going to just work harder. I'm going to find a way of doing this and it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And when you have that different level of energy, you actually are able to show up on an entirely different level. But here's the thing. When you have that energy, people will follow you anywhere because people want leaders who have that kind of energy. We are going to figure it out. We are going to find a way. And it's not going to be a way that like hurts everybody because that's something that I refuse to like agree to. It's going to be a way that everybody's going to be able to excel. It's going to be a win-win-win. And we're going to find that way. We may not have it right now, but we're going to do it. And when you step into that law of victory like that, and you start using words like that, instead of I think I'm going to try, everybody gets behind you in a different way. So we got to think about how do we reframe not only our words, but our thoughts to get us to realize like we are going to win. It's just a matter of how and when, and I'm going to figure that out, right? And when you step into that, you step in with a different energy and a different confidence, and you find those answers rather than I'm testing this out for right now, just until it gets hard kind of thing. We don't really say that, but really that's what our brain is telling us is like, let's try this until it gets hard. Then we're not going to be able to do the things that we truly, our potential is. And then people won't get behind us when we're actually having those conversations and throwing the vision out there, right? Really wanted to share that one because that was something that really happened recently with one of my one-on-one clients. And when this transformation happened, I got to tell you, from there, it was way different of a conversation in terms of results that they were getting because they were putting their stake in the ground. This is what I'm doing, and this is how I'm going to succeed. And then finding the answers started to pop up. Before that, none of the answers would pop up. Okay, law number 16, the law of Big Mo. Momentum is a leader's best friend. They say truths about momentum. Why do I say that momentum really is a leader's best friend? Because many times it's the only thing that can make the difference between winning and losing. When we have no momentum, even the simplest tasks can seem impossible. Small problems end up looking like insurmountable obstacles. Morale becomes low, the future appears dark, and an organization with no momentum is like a train at a dead stop. It's hard to get going, and even a small wooden block on the track can keep it from going anywhere. But on the other hand, when you have momentum on your side, the future looks bright, obstacles appear small, and troubles seem inconsequential. I mean, have you guys ever had that? Where like one wrong thing happens, and then it just feels like everything else kind of snowballs on that, versus like one amazing, incredible experience happens, and then from there, like big things come up, and it's not a big deal for you because you've got that momentum. It really is a game changer. He says there's a couple things that are the truths about momentum. Number one is momentum is the great exaggerator. He says it works easily when you think about sports because the swings in momentum occur in the space of a few hours right before your eyes. Because when a team gets on a roll, every play seems to work. Every shot seems to score and the team seems to do no wrong. But the opposite is also true. When a team is in a slump, no matter how hard you try or how many solutions you try, nothing seems to work. Momentum is like a magnifying glass. It makes things look bigger than they really are, and it also makes things look worse than they really are. Because both of those things are not true. It's just that what he says is momentum is like the magnifying glass for whatever is going on in your life right now. So sometimes just taking a step back will help you if you feel like you're going down the opposite path. He also says momentum makes leaders look better than they are. Sometimes momentum will make it seem like the leader's like all on point, right? But in reality, they're actually not that good. It's just that momentum has helped them to kind of like push them over the line. It says momentum helps followers perform better than they are. It's the same thing. Like when you see all of the momentum, when you see all of the action that's being taken. I mean, this even happens in our inner circle. When you see people making sales, when you see people connecting with their family, when you see like all these, it makes it so much easier for everybody else to start doing that too. It's what momentum does. He says momentum is easier to steer than it is to start. In the beginning, it's hard. I know we have like 17,000 followers on YouTube right now, but like when we started out, we had 0. And like, it was hard to get started, to get people to see this. And I sucked even worse than I suck right now. And trying to get people to watch things was like much harder. But once we got it started, now it's easier to steer in different directions rather than to start. Doesn't mean you shouldn't start. It just means in the beginning, you just got to have your expectations in place, right? He says, momentum is also the most powerful change engine. If you're looking to change and you have momentum, It's way easier to change. He says momentum is also the leader's responsibility. It takes a leader to create momentum. Followers can catch it, and good managers are able to use it to their advantage, but leaders are the one who create their momentum. And then momentum begins inside the leader. This is I had a training that we went through, and it was talking about the difference between internal momentum and external momentum. Internal momentum happens first. Kind of like what we were talking about before, like the switch of like, I'm going to just try this and test it to see if it's going to work versus I'm doing this and I'm going to find a way. That's internal momentum. You can't like measure it. You can't like look at the numbers. You can't see like how, powerful the momentum is. All it is an intrinsic version of momentum. And what that intrinsic momentum does is if you continue to build up that intrinsic momentum, it starts to like show on the outside. It starts to be created on the outside, not to the same degree or quickness. And I really do think that the internal momentum is when you change that, when you get that under control, the outside is just gonna follow, but it takes some time to really be able to build it up. So also when you're creating momentum, you don't want to just look on the outside to see the momentum. You want to look on the inside to actually generate the momentum. There's a training we did on the channel. I don't remember if it was for the inner circle or just for everybody on YouTube, but talked about like how to generate more energy and momentum so that you can not only finish what you start, but take it over the finish line and take so many other people over there with you. It has a lot to do with starting with internal, intrinsic motivation and momentum to be able to pick up that kind of speed. So when you're looking at momentum, don't always look to the outside. Maybe you won't have the results that you want to have. But you got to ask yourself, how can I create that internal momentum that will naturally lead into the external momentum? And being able to focus on that is a really great story that I tell myself because sometimes it doesn't show up on the outside. It shows up on the inside first, and then it gets put to the outside. Okay. Law number 17, the law of priorities. Going through this pretty fast. That's good. He says, leaders never advance up to a point where they no longer need to prioritize. It's something that good leaders keep doing, whether they're leading $1 billion corporation, running a small business, pastoring a church, coaching a team, or leading a small group. I think good leaders intuitively know this to be true. However, not every leader practices the discipline of prioritizing. Why? I believe there are a few reasons. First, when we are busy, we naturally believe that we are achieving. But busyness does not equal productivity. Activity is not necessarily accomplishment. And second, prioritizing requires leaders to continually think ahead, to know what's important, to know what's next, and to see how everything relates to the original vision. That's hard work. Third, he says prioritizing causes us to do things that are the least uncomfortable and sometimes downright painful. So when I think about the whole prioritizing, I think about the 80-20 rule, very similar to what he talks about in here. And that is like some things matter more than others. That's the universal principle. And if you can do things that matter more than others more often and do things that move the needle only a little bit less often or have somebody else do them, you will get more results in your life. Logically, if you know that reaching out and having coaching calls is what gets people to sign up for, a one-on-one session with you, then doing more of that is going to help you get more coaching calls rather than what I see a lot of people do is like, that's uncomfortable to reach out to people. So let me put together some posts on social media. Let me do this other thing that's going to feel better to me, but it's not going to get the results. And then people spend all their time doing that when, if they spent time doing the thing that moves the needle the most, they would have more, not only business, but also this can go into connection too. Same with family. So when you think about like moving the needle forward with family and your connection, asking yourself, what moves the needle forward the most? What makes me feel most connected to my family? And what are some of the things that I do that don't really feel that connecting, right? So when I think about this, I think about like watching TV or movies. Like sometimes it's a good way of like resetting my brain, but that does not move the needle forward having great conversations with my family. But if I spend 15, 20 minutes playing a board game, going on a walk with them, asking them a powerful question to really like get curious with them, that's what moves the needle forward the most. So if I do that more often, then being able to just be around or, when I'm doing laundry or all that kind of stuff, just saying like, oh, I'm being a parent now, even though I'm not intentionally being with them, that's really where I can use that time and reprioritize it to spend more of that high quality time so that I also don't have to think that it's just a pure time game, right? Where you're like, it's all about quantity, right? And in reality, it's all about quality first. And then once you have quality, then you can add some quantity to it, but quality really does trump. So how he breaks it down, he doesn't use the 80-20. He says, number one, ask yourself what is required. Number two, what gives me the greatest return? And number three is what brings the greatest reward. So very, very similar. So number one is what is required. Like there's some things that you're like, this is the stuff that I do, right? What gives the greatest return? So when you look at that, what are some of the things that you do that actually gives you the greatest return? And then what brings the greatest reward, right? It says the final question relates to personal satisfaction. So when you think about reward and the reward that you get from doing that thing, what thing gives you the most feeling of like getting that reward? Okay, that was number 17. This is number 18. The law of sacrifice. A leader must give up to go up. He says, here are some things you need to know about the law of sacrifice. He says, there's no success without sacrifice. Ralph Waldo Emerson says, for everything you have missed, you have gained something else. And for everything you gain, you lose something. Life is a series of trades, one for another. Now, when I was thinking about this, like the law of success, when it comes to like the law of sacrifice, one of the things that I really want to point out is there's things in life that I'm unwilling to sacrifice, and I'm not going to sacrifice those. But there's things that I was willing to sacrifice that at the time, playing softball, fantasy football, things like going to poker, those kind of things, I knew that I was going to have to sacrifice something. So I decided on purpose what I was going to sacrifice, not like just doing it by default. And so when I think about like the law of sacrifice, I don't think of it in terms of like, what are the things that are like true to my values that I'm going to sacrifice? I think about what are the things that are out of alignment from what I truly want. Those are the things that I'm going to be willing to sacrifice. He says, number 2, leaders are often asked to give up more than others. So more often than not, leaders are going to have to give up more than others. And the truth is like most people aren't willing to do that. That's the reason why you're a leader, because you're willing to do that and you're willing to take those steps and take those actions. Number 3 is you must keep giving up to stay up. So he says there's this thought that like once you give something up once, then like you're going to be good to go and you're going to be able to like not have to give that stuff up anymore. And he says, well, in order to keep going up and helping make a bigger impact, you have to keep giving up to stay up. And he says leadership success requires continual change, constant improvement, and ongoing sacrifice. Number 4 is the higher the level of leadership, the greater the sacrifice. He says, have you ever been a part of an auction? It's an exciting experience as an item comes up for bid and everyone in the room gets excited. When the bidding opens, a lot of people jump in and take part. But as the price goes up higher and higher, what happens? There are fewer and fewer bidders. When the price is low, everyone bids. In the end, only one person is willing to pay the high price that the item actually costs. It's the same in leadership. The higher you go, the more it's going to cost you. And it doesn't matter what kind of leadership career you pick. You will have to make sacrifices. You will have to give up to go up. I think one of the things that comes up for me is like I said, there are some things that I'm unwilling to sacrifice. And so there's certain things, let me give you an example, my police career, I was unwilling to sacrifice what I needed to do to become like, let's say, the chief of police. Because I knew that there were certain things, not only that I would have to give up, but certain things that would happen, my family being in the limelight, all of that kind of stuff. And the amount of hours in time and energy to put in there, I was not willing to sacrifice that. And so I made it very clear to myself that that is not going to be something that I'm going to pursue because I'm not willing to do that, which is also why I started my own business, because I was willing to sacrifice some of the other things in order to create a business so I could have this life of freedom, so I can spend high quality time with my family, knowing that I'm not going to also get to the point where I'm going to have like a, $10 billion, company, because also like I'm not willing to sacrifice what it costs to get there. Not that it's right or wrong either, by the way, guys. Everybody's on their own journey. You just have to decide what are some of the things you're willing to sacrifice in order to get there. And maybe this is not a season for you. Maybe it is a season for you, but not comparing what your sacrifice is to someone else, I think is really, really important part of this for sure. All right. Law number 19, the law of timing. When to lead is as important as what to do and where to go. Let's see what I got here. He says, timing is everything. He says, if you're the leader and you take the wrong action at the wrong time, it leads to disaster. If you take the right action at the wrong time, it actually leads to resistance. People are resisting you leading them. If you take the wrong action at the right time, then it's just a mistake to learn from. And if you take the right action in the right time, it results in success. This is another one of those that was kind of like a brain twister for me, because I was really thinking about this in terms of like the right actions and the right times. And when I think about like even to the degree of being a parent or being a business owner, like there's things that you can do that are the right activities, the right actions. It's just you took them at the wrong time. What comes to mind is like if you are wanting to connect with your family, well, in the moment when everybody's angry at each other, that's probably not the right time to bring it up and to have a conversation, right? It might have been the right action, but it might have been the wrong time. And so really thinking about this in terms of like, okay, this may or may not be the right action. Is this the right action? And this may or may not be the right or wrong time. I know for me personally, what used to get me in trouble is I used to rush the time. And I'm like, well, I know this is the right action, so let me do it now. And knowing that you have to make sure that it is the right time. This is even like when it comes to business, right? Like if you have something that's going to change someone's life forever, you got to find the right time for them that this is going to be that thing to move forward, right? They might say, I need this. It's like the most important thing to me in my life, but I just can't do it right now. And knowing that it's all about like not only the right thing, but also the right timing helps you to remove the part of like judgment about like how you are the reason why they're not moving forward. And it's like, no, sometimes it's like, yeah, it might be the wrong thing, but it also might just be the wrong time. So really thinking this through gives you the power of asking yourself, like, is this the right thing? And is this the right time? All right, let me hit up some of these comments because you guys are crushing it here today. Let's see. Tiffany says, or Aaron says, I have to say, Mark, let's see. I have to say your belief in me has helped me believe in myself so far. That is absolutely true. Yes, Aaron. Aaron, I believe in you so much, my friend. I believe in all of you guys. Let's see. I just commented in the Technical Accountability Squad about the page you posted and how we magnify the perception of a problem in our minds to avoid the pain of facing it. 100%. 100%. We do a lot of things in our brain to avoid us from actually feeling a feeling, right? And sometimes it's like pretending like it's not there or pretending like it doesn't exist or putting our blinders on, right? But that actually doesn't help solve any problems. It just makes us feel worse about it later, right? Quality over quantity all day, every day. Yep. I really have just had to give up limitations I place on myself every time, not values ever. Yes, finding the and instead of the or. 100%, 100%. Those are some great takeaways, guys. All right, number 20, chapter number 20, the law of explosive growth. To add growth, lead followers. To multiply, lead leaders. I actually did a YouTube video on this. It may have been like 2 months ago, where I actually talked about how to find a multiplier instead of finding an addition or subtraction. What I meant by that is like when you find somebody who is a leader, not only will they be like a plus in your organization, but they also will be a multiplier, meaning they multiply times 10, times 100, times 1,000 because they're actually leaders and not followers. It's such a really, really interesting way of thinking about it. And also, especially like when you're empowering kids, when you're empowering people to like step up and to lead, that you realize that how you're creating the culture of a leadership culture or a follower culture. And if it's a follower culture, everybody's going to come to you and ask you questions, a million questions, and not be willing to take the action because you haven't created that environment of psychological safety. And when you've created that kind of like leadership, you have a bunch of leaders that are going around. And yeah, there's going to be mistakes that are going to be there, but it's so powerful when you know that they're going to be able to make their own decisions. It's just a weight that's lifted off of you. He says a different focus. He says leaders who attract followers need to be needed. Leaders who develop leaders want to be succeeded. He says leaders who attract followers develop the bottom 20%. Leaders who develop leaders develop the top 20%. Leaders who attract followers focus on weaknesses. Leaders who develop leaders focus on strengths. Leaders who attract followers treat everyone the same. Leaders who develop leaders treat individuals differently. Leaders who attract followers spend time with others. Leaders who develop leaders invest time in others. And leaders who attract followers grow by addition, and leaders who develop leaders grow by multiplication. I don't think there's anything that I can add to that. It is awesome. It is awesome. It's awesome. He also says leaders who attract followers impact only people they touch. Leaders who develop leaders impact people beyond their reach. It's one of the reasons why we started our life coach certification, because there's only a certain number of people that I can actually one-on-one coach, right? And when I can teach other people to do what I do, but do it in their own way, it's so empowering when you hear stories of them impacting other people's lives, because I feel like I had a piece of that to play. Majority of that was on them, but me giving them the ability of like learning these strategies and going out and helping impact people, when in reality I can only help a certain amount of people, it just makes me feel better when I actually get to do that. So 100%. Trisha says, that's the focus, multiply. Trisha, what's going on, my friend? By the way, I sent you Marco Polo. I think you got it. You may have gotten it. All right. Number 21 of the Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, the law of legacy. A leader's lasting value is measured by succession. He says, my left sentence is I want to add values to leaders who will multiply value to others. He says, if you desire to make an impact on a future generation, then I suggest you become highly intentional about your legacy. I believe that every person leaves some kind of legacy. For some, it's positive. For others, it's negative. But here's what I know. We have a choice about the legacy we will leave, and we must work and be intentional to leave the legacy we want. And here's how to leave your legacy. Number 1 is know the legacy that you want to leave. Here's the thing, I went through this eulogy exercise in one of the dad masterminds that I ran. And one of the things we did is we asked them to think about when their life is ended here, what their kids and what their spouse would say about them, while they were giving the eulogy. And we asked everybody in the group to write that eulogy of the person that they would describe up there. And we did it from a place of visioning, what do you want them to say? Not what are they going to say right now? Because when you go to that end and you think about how you want your family and the people that you supported and all that stuff to talk about you, you can see if there's any adjustments that you can make right now to make sure that that happens. And it's crazy when you do that, because you can actually reverse engineer it right now instead of waiting to the end and just guessing if it's going to be something that's possible. And that's why he says, first you have to know the legacy that you want to leave before you start figuring out. Number 2 is live the legacy that you want to leave. So once you know the kind of legacy, then ask yourself, what kind of person, what are some of the things that I'm doing or saying or making sure that I'm practicing, or some of the skills that I can develop so that I can actually leave that kind of legacy. And then number 3 is choose who will carry on your legacy. Number 4, and make sure you pass the baton to someone else. One of the things that I realized by being a part of a mastermind for YouTube, yes, I'm a part of a lot of masterminds, but when it comes to for YouTube, a lot of the people in there were actually creating YouTube channels because they want to be able to pass on the legacy of everything they've learned and who they've become to their kids and their family when they're no longer here. And when I think about that, I'm my son and daughter are going to have an opportunity to come here when I'm no longer here and see some of the teachings and trainings and things that their dad taught. I'm that is incredible to me. It feels like I am not only leaving a legacy, but I'm leaving breadcrumbs for them to make a decision any path that they want to go down, because I'm going to support them no matter which path that they go down. But so they also know a little bit about me and what my vision was and what I was here to do and what I was trying to do while growing a business I love, but also connecting with them, making them the most important thing in my life, while also focusing on my health, physical and mental health, so that I don't burn myself out. And by doing that, I feel like leaving these videos is a great way for me to be able to pass that on to them, whether or not they take any action on it. And I really feel like this is a really great way of ending the book, is thinking about this, the law of legacy. How do you want people to talk about when you're no longer here? And what can you do right now that will help them to be able to actually make that come true, right? What it is that they're going to be saying. You basically have the opportunity to write that or rewrite it if you're not on alignment to actually creating that right now. And I got to tell you, for myself, I wasn't in alignment with that. There's a reason why I'm here at Modern Leadership wanting to help people excel in multiple areas is because I truly believed back in the day that I couldn't excel in all of these, that I thought that I had to sacrifice one area for the betterment of the other, that I had to really show up as best as I can because I was just there to support my family and bring money and all that kind of stuff. And they would never see me, or if they did see me, it would be the angry and frustrated and negative version of Mark at the time. But being able to sit down and go, you know what, like books like this, books like the other books that we're reading inside of our book club, books like my book, like that actually has everything that I learned over the last 10 or 11 years that helped me to get myself to show up in a different way. Like it's literally an instruction manual on things that we can follow, things that we can lean into so we can become the best version of ourselves. And I'm super grateful to actually be on this journey with you guys. So I know a lot of you guys are already inside of the book club. You're already inside of the inner circle. If you're not, you can check out those details. But I appreciate you for always leaning in, for watching these videos, watching on the replay. Doesn't matter. Like I love to be able to have conversations like we're having today. But in reality, as long as you're taking that action, like you are exactly where you need to be. And if there's anything I can ever do to help, whether it's one-on-one in a success pod, anything else, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, because I'm all about doing whatever I can to help you speed up this journey so that you can have the success that you and your family truly deserve and create that legacy that I know that you were created for. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing the hard things. Our next book is Un-F Yourself by Gary John Bishop. We've already started to read it in the app. A really, really powerful book, but we will hop in here in July to do a breakdown of that one. And then if there's anything that you ever need, please don't hesitate to reach out. Appreciate you guys for being here. Guys, have an incredible rest of the week, and I will see you this Saturday on one of our calls, all right? All right, bye, everybody.